Hey everyone. So I just want to take a quick moment. For those of you that like using Photoshop, you can develop some of your items for this course inside Photoshop. I have no problem with that. So, for example, a lot of times when I'm working on a postcard, since the front of it is very image heavy, it's not uncommon for me to actually design the front of my postcard inside Photoshop. Because the advantage is I can have multiple pictures, all the fonts I want, and then I can compress it down to just a single file that I can just place on the front inside InDesign. And so I just want to kind of talk to you just a bit about how to do that inside Photoshop if you want to design your front cover or the front of your postcard using it. So again, this is not a tutorial on Photoshop. If you've never touched Photoshop, do not, do not watch this. So again, this is for those of you who have a little bit familiarity with it. So inside Photoshop, just kind of give you an example, you'll notice that this particular file has multiple layers. I've got my font on there. I've got the logo, which is right there. I've also got my background image and some other elements. And as you know that working with InDesign, as you start bringing in multiple files that are very large in size, it can definitely slow down your production, especially depending on your computer. And so a lot of times I'll just build what I want for the front of my postcard, again, not the back, using Photoshop. And the reason I don't do the back of that is because anytime that you have to deal with a lot of text, you really should not be using Photoshop for that at all. Again, Photoshop's purpose is really designing for composites, composite images, photo manipulation, and that sort of thing. Anyhow, but let me walk you through how to get started with this, and then we'll come back to this here, in just a second. All right, so if you're starting out in Photoshop, go to File, New. Okay. And again, with Photoshop, make sure that you understand that it's resolution dependent. This means that you have to choose the resolution and the color mode really up front. And so in this case, whenever you're creating it, you want to come over here to your presets. You want to go from pixels to inches. In this particular case, for the postcard, it is a 6:9, but, and this is an important but, there's also a 1/8 bleed on each side. So when you add an eighth plus an eighth, you get a quarter of an inch. That means our width needs to be 9.25 inside Photoshop because we're compensating for that bleed. And the same thing for the height. Normally it would be 6 inches, but whenever you add an eighth of an inch up at the top and an eighth of an inch at the bottom to compensate for the bleed, that equals 0.25. All right, so this is our overall dimensions. Our resolution needs to be set to 300 for this particular project because most high-end print jobs require at least 300 pixels per inch. And again, you can always talk to your printer ahead of time, but you need to know what that resolution needs to be because if you start off too small, you can never go big. So it's always easier to start off big and then reduce it down than trying to go the opposite direction. So in this particular case, we know that the resolution is 300, and because it's going to be for a print job, the color mode will be CMYK. All right, so with that set, 9.25 by 6.25, we've got 300 resolution, CMYK color. We just hit create. Okay, so we have our blank canvas. The first thing I would do is go in and set up my guides. Again, you'll notice we aren't able to set up bleeds inside here. So what we do is we just have to sort of manipulate that. So again, I'm going to draw this over till it's about 1/8 of an inch in. And so you'll notice here is the 1 inch mark. There's the 1/2 inch. Here's the 1/4 inch. And 1/8 is half of that. So that puts the 1/8 mark around right there. Okay. And then once you've got that 1/8 mark in, then you need to do at least a 1/4 of an inch past that for your margin. All right, so to get our 1/4 of an inch, so we go 1/8, that's half of a 1/4 of an inch, and then one more. All right, and that's our 1/4 of an inch. So it's a 1/4 of an inch from that particular mark. Let's do another one. So again, we're going to come down 1/8 of an inch. This is for our bleed. We're going to set it right here. And again, here is the 1/4 inch mark. So half of that is our, I had it perfect. Half of that is our 1/8, and that will be our bleed. And then we're going to come in 1/4 of an inch from that line down, okay? And that will be our margin. Because technically this line right here, that is your trim mark. That's your trim size. So there's our 1/8 of an inch. We'll come down one more. And there is our 1/4 inch. And I can tell because typically if it's a square, it means I have them lined up. And so that's your 1/8 inch mark. And of course, this will be your 0.25. So if we zoom out, you can see that we've set up that corner over there. You're going to come down here to the bottom corner. We're going to do the exact same thing. You're going to set up your marks, drag again. So if that's 9.25, this right here is 1/8. Okay. And you can see where the X value says 9.125. Drop that in, that's our 1/8 mark. And then we're going to go another 1/4 of an inch past that, so 1/8 plus 1/8. Same thing at the bottom. We're going to come up 1/8 of an inch. So again, if this is 6.25, again, half of 0.25 is 1/8. So we come up to the 1/8 mark. And then we're going to add a 1/4 of an inch on top of that. So 0.218 equal 0.25. You're going to have to know how to do a little bit of math for graphic design. All right, so we're going to go 1, that's 1/8, and then 2. Okay. All right, there you go. So there's your rough guide. So you want to make sure that if you have an image, it goes beyond all the way to the edge. Okay, again, that compensates for the bleed. And then inside here, you want to make sure that all your important information stays within inside this margin. Okay, just to be safe. Anyway, so once you start going through and you start designing it, pretty soon, once you've got all your layers in place, then whenever you're ready to export, and keep in mind, normally when I have a working file, I do 2 things. I'll do File, I'll do Save As, and my working file, what I always save it as is a PSD. This is my editable file. This is what I like to go back and work with. So we'll call this 4TS. You can call it whatever else you want, but I'm just going to put working. Or sometimes I'll call it rough. All right. So again, PSD, that's for my working file. This means I can always go back and edit it if I need to. Okay, we'll go ahead and save it. Just hit OK. Then whenever I'm ready to bring it into InDesign, what I'll do is I'll come up here to Layer. I'll flatten the image. That compresses everything down into one single layer. I'm going to come over here to File. I'm going to do a Save As. And this time, I'm going to change it to a TIFF. Okay, a TIFF means that there's no loss of resolution, and it's great for print. And so I'm just going to hit change the name to Final, and hit Save. Whenever this comes up, I don't want any image compression. I'm going to leave everything as their defaults and just hit OK. All right, and then whenever I'm ready, I go into InDesign. Let's create our new document here real quick. Create new. Again, we have a 9:6, and we don't add in the 0.25 here because we add that in down here at the bleed. But we've got a margin of 0.25 all the way around, and our bleed is 0.125. 0.125 is 1/8 of an inch. Okay. All right, so once we've got that, we hit Create. All right, then we come up to File. We go down to Place. We locate our image, our TIFF. We select it, hit Open. And you'll notice that it's asking you where you want to put it. And so you're going to click in the corner, all right, in the upper left corner of your bleed. All right, so you're going to drop it. Don't worry if it's not perfect. We can fix that. Okay, you're going to drop it in, and that's really all there is. Now, to make sure it's where it needs to be, with the image selected, come over here to your Properties box. Click that upper left reference point. Just make sure those are sitting at -0.125 for the X, and again, -0.125 for the Y. And if that's it, then that's good. And that's really all there is. And then you can basically start working on the inside of your postcard. Hope that helps.